Echoes of Revolution. How the Russian Uprising shaped the 20th century. The Russian Revolution of the 20th century stands as an epochal upheaval that reverberated across the global stage, forever altering the course of politics, society, and ideology. In 1917, the collision of historical injustices, economic turmoil, and the aspirations of a disenchanted populace culminated in the overthrow of the Romanov monarchy and the rise of the Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin. This monumental event, which began as a surge of popular unrest and ended with the establishment of a communist regime, not only reshaped the geopolitical landscape of the time, but also left a lasting legacy that continues to influence the world today. The roots of discontent. Precursors to revolution. To comprehend the magnitude of the Russian Revolution, it is imperative to explore the historical underpinnings that fueled the discontent brewing within Russian society. The autocratic rule of the Romanov dynasty had engendered deep-seated grievances among various segments of the population. Peasants toiled in abject poverty on the vast estates of the aristocracy, while industrial workers endured deplorable working conditions in urban factories. The gap between the ruling elite and the suffering masses had widened to a chasm, exacerbated by Russia's involvement in World War I, which strained resources and intensified economic hardships. Intellectuals and revolutionaries, inspired by Marxist ideologies and the desire for social justice, began to organize and agitate for change. The writings of figures like Karl Marx had percolated into Russian intellectual circles, providing a theoretical foundation for critiquing the existing order. Moreover, the spread of socialist ideas offered hope to those yearning for a more equitable society. This growing dissension found expression in the 1905 revolution, a precursor to the larger upheaval that was to come. Although the 1905 revolution did not achieve its intended goals, it laid the groundwork for future revolutionary fervor and highlighted the vulnerabilities of the existing regime. War, famine, and unrest. The catalyst for revolution. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 marked a turning point for Russia. As the conflict escalated, the strains on the Russian economy and society became increasingly evident. The war effort drained resources, leading to food shortages and economic instability. These hardships were particularly acute for urban workers and peasants, who bore the brunt of the suffering, while the monarchy and aristocracy seemed oblivious to their plight. The mass mobilization of the Russian population into the war effort further exposed the inadequacies of the autocratic regime's governance and exacerbated social tensions. The combination of war-induced difficulties, famine, and disaffection provided fertile ground for the seeds of revolution to take root. Strikes, protests, and mutinies spread throughout the country as workers and soldiers alike voiced their dissatisfaction with the status quo. It was in this environment of tumult and desperation that the events of February 1917 unfolded, ultimately resulting in the abdication of Tsar Nicholas II. The monarchy, which had ruled Russia for centuries, crumbled under the weight of its own failures. The Bolsheviks' rise to power. From uprising to consolidation, the February Revolution created a power vacuum that was quickly filled by a multitude of political factions and revolutionary groups, each vying for influence and control. Amidst this chaos, the Bolsheviks, under the leadership of Vladimir Lenin, emerged as a force to be reckoned with. Lenin's radical vision of a proletariat-led revolution and the establishment of a dictatorship of the proletariat resonated with segments of the population disillusioned by the failures of the provisional government that had taken over after the abdication of the Tsar. Lenin's return to Russia, aided by Germany, marked a pivotal moment. The Bolsheviks capitalized on the widespread dissatisfaction with the provisional government's inability to address pressing issues, including land reform and an end to the war. The October Revolution, executed by the Bolsheviks in November 1917 according to the Gregorian calendar, brought them to power, culminating in the establishment of a socialist government. The Bolsheviks' success in seizing power was not without controversy, as the events raised questions about the legitimacy of their rule and the nature of revolutionary authority. Reconstructing society. Challenges and transformations. The Bolsheviks' ascent to power marked the beginning of a new era in Russia's history, characterized by both radical transformations and immense challenges. Lenin's government faced the immediate tasks of consolidating power, ending Russia's involvement in World War I, and addressing the demands of various factions that had supported the revolution. The signing of the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk in March 1918 signaled Russia's exit from the war, but came at the cost of significant territorial losses. Amidst the turmoil of war and internal strife, the Bolsheviks undertook a series of ambitious reforms aimed at reconfiguring society. Land was redistributed to the peasants, a move that struck at the heart of the old feudal order. The church's influence was curtailed as the state assumed control of religious institutions, leading to clashes between traditional values and the new revolutionary ethos. The family structure underwent changes as well, with laws promoting gender equality and the recognition of civil marriages. However, these changes were not universally welcomed, and the Bolsheviks faced resistance from various quarters. The Russian Civil War, fought between the Bolshevik Red Army and anti-Bolshevik White forces, exemplified the complexity of the revolutionary process. The Civil War, which raged from 1918 to 1922, inflicted immense suffering on the population and showcased the ideological and regional fault lines that had emerged in the wake of the revolution. The Bolsheviks' victory in the Civil War solidified their grip on power, but also left the nation deeply scarred. Totalitarianism and its aftermath. Legacy of the revolution. The Russian Revolution's aftermath was marked by the consolidation of power under the leadership of the Bolshevik Party, which would eventually evolve into the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. The establishment of the Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic in 1917 laid the foundation for the creation of the Soviet Union in 1922. Under the leadership of figures like Lenin and, later, Joseph Stalin, the Soviet state implemented policies that transformed every aspect of Russian society. The revolution's idealism gradually gave way to the realities of governing a vast and diverse country. Lenin's new economic policy NEP introduced limited market-oriented reforms in an attempt to revive the economy. But it was under Stalin that the Soviet Union shifted toward a more centralized and command-driven economic system. Collectivization of agriculture and rapid industrialization were pursued with fervor, but these policies often came at the cost of immense human suffering. The forced collectivization of agriculture, in particular, led to widespread famine and loss of life. Stalin's rule also marked a turn toward totalitarianism, characterized by the suppression of dissent, widespread purges, and the establishment of a cult of personality around the leader. The Great Purge of the 1930s saw the elimination of perceived enemies of the state, including intellectuals, party members, and military officials. The state's control over all aspects of life extended to the realms of culture and art, where conformity to socialist realism became a requirement for creative expression. Global impact and contemporary relevance. The echoes of the Russian Revolution resonated far beyond the borders of the Soviet Union. The establishment of a communist state in Russia inspired leftist movements around the world, with varying degrees of success. The Soviet Union's emergence as a superpower during the Cold War era led to a global ideological and geopolitical rivalry between the capitalist West and the communist East. The proxy conflicts and nuclear standoffs that defined the Cold War era were inextricably linked to the revolutionary events of 1917. Moreover, The Russian Revolution's impact on global perceptions of social justice, class struggle, and the role of the state in people's lives cannot be overstated. Marxist ideas that had gained traction in the wake of the revolution influenced political and intellectual discourse in the 20th century. While the practical implementation of these ideas often led to authoritarian regimes and human rights abuses, the revolutionary fervor underscored the importance of addressing social inequality and injustice. In contemporary times, the legacy of the Russian Revolution continues to reverberate. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 marked the end of an era and reshaped the global political landscape. The events of 1917 and their aftermath serve as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and the consequences of pursuing radical change without due consideration for human rights and individual freedoms. Conclusion. Resonance of revolution. The Russian Revolution of the 20th century stands as a pivotal moment in human history, one that transformed not only the nation it directly impacted, but also the course of the entire century. Emerging from a backdrop of socio-economic inequality, war-induced suffering, and ideological fervor, the revolution's reverberations reached beyond the physical boundaries of Russia. Its influence extended to political discourse, global power dynamics, and the very notions of social justice and governance. The rise of the Bolsheviks, the consolidation of power, and the subsequent trajectory of the Soviet Union showcased both the possibilities and pitfalls of revolutionary change. The ideals that inspired the revolution were tested and often distorted in the face of the complexities of governance, leading to profound human costs. Yet, the Russian Revolution's enduring legacy is a reminder that the pursuit of justice, equality, and freedom is a journey fraught with challenges, and the lessons learned from this tumultuous period continue to shape the ongoing struggle for a better world.